And welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott, and we are here for the weekend kickoff for WWE Survivor Series 2025. Of course, these days it's all about War Games. We're going to be breaking down the two War Games matches, all the predictions surrounding it, the rumors, and all that kind of stuff, as we always do on these shows, and the other matches on the card right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
So thank you for joining us for the action, whether it's live or on demand. We appreciate you, and we want to know what you think is going to happen at Survivor Series this year, what you're looking forward to, and what your thoughts on the build towards it as well. Of course, we've had the go home show; it's in the books. This has been recorded just a few hours away from SmackDown as well, so we'll maybe touch on a little bit of that in the show. Also, Lucas is going to be joining me in a little bit as well, so we'll be kind of debating and going back and forth on our predictions for the show itself. Ashley's in the house. Says hi Ashley, good to see you in. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you are looking forward to Survivor Series as I am. I haven't really managed to catch up with WWE as much as I'd like to. Had a lot going on lately, including needing to get a brand new laptops in order to do this show. So look, we're here, we are ready, and we are going to break down the card, as I say, get you guys hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE this weekend. And we won't be doing a build-up show live on Saturday like we usually do, unfortunately, due to other commitments. But again, we thought we'd hit you with a weekend preview either way. Also got Casper here. Always good to see you, buddy. Casper here. Hope you're well. Scott, my name is changed than usual. I get you, buddy. Always good to see you, mate. Hope you're doing well. I mean, I can call you Chris if you want, but we've always just called you Casper, right? So it's up to you, buddy. But good to have you in. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking forward to it. We're going to have Lucas in, as I say, very, very soon. And I can see Ashley says, I'm definitely excited for War Games. Now, I've got to be honest, guys, before Lucas comes on, he's not the biggest fan of the War Games concept. We've got a video on this very channel where he explains why. But look, either way, I think it's going to be a fun show to predict, a fun show to break down. And there are going to be big moments, because there tend to be big moments on this show in the past few years. Of course, you think about CM Punk's return to the WWE. Will we see more returns this weekend? We'll have to wait and see. But again, we're going to debate that and every single match announced so far with Lucas. So without further ado, let's bring the man in himself. How you doing, Lucas?
Yeah, all good. You said every single match. There's 4 matches, Scott. There's 4.
I know. You never know if a fifth gets added. As I said a moment ago, this is being recorded just before SmackDown, so we don't know. Maybe if you're watching this to hype yourself up on Saturday, they might be a fifth match. Who knows? But judging by the way they've been with these kind of bigger bigger kind of stipulation-based PLEs, like the Royal Rumble and the Chamber, they have leaned more towards 4, haven't they? So, again, because they are quite big matches in themselves. So we'll have to see where we go with it. But at the moment, as you say, it's only 4 matches. I've given the viewers a little bit of a heads up, Lucas, for those that maybe are new here, especially that you are not the biggest fan of the War Games concept. So that might come up into some of our conversation here. And again, you did a great video on this channel last year where you went into more detail about that. But what are your thoughts on the card that we've got?
So they're split, really. I dislike War Games, but if I just look at the actual matches that we've got some interesting ones here. As we've got some new people to War Games, we've got a lot of people that have already done War Games as well, which is my other major gripe. You know, especially for the men, we're talking about. You know, Roman's done it already. So have the Usos. So has Punk. You know, we've kind of seen this story before. I know it's the Vision, but it's like it's also kind of bloodline, kind of still kind of part of it. And the women, it always just seems so random with the women. Like every year. I mean, I'm not saying it in any way other than just pointing out the facts of. Every year, the Women's Chamber is just random because there's no female factions. And that may be think if they could have used this time, because the first year this happened, obviously, it was the first year it happened. But now we're, what, 3 in? 2022, 23, 24, no, 4 in now. We're 4 years into this, yeah? And you'd think that, to go, oh, let's make a woman stable and keep them together for, like, all you got to do is keep them together in the winter, really. But they can split up at WarGames if they need to.
Yeah. I mean, the thing. I want to be hopeful that they would do that, but what makes me realise, or kind of maybe start to accept that they probably never will, is that they had the exact same problem with Survivor Series.
Yeah.
The traditional matches, and as much as again, I know you love them, and I'm a fan of them myself, but my issue with Survivor Series was every year, especially when it was around the Brown split, was like suddenly you cared about who was on Raw and who was on SmackDown. It made no sense to me. Sometimes, like, people come together for a greater good, they're really angry at someone or whatever else, and they don't necessarily have to be as stable. But it's always annoying when they conveniently, same as with the Hell in a Cell, conveniently go, we we can't be contained. There must be a Hell in a Cell match or something like that, just conveniently on
Yeah.
October, whatever it used to be. So it is a frustrating side to the format. With that in mind, look, we've got a card, we've got one to predict. Again, we've touched on already. There's only 4 matches. I know you, Lucas, have started a brand new show on your own channel, the Lucas Jackson Show. What kind of over there? Because I know your latest episode's just come out, and I believe some of it's going to be based on this very topic, right? About essentially give us more matches, right?
Yeah. So obviously, I touched upon it on this week's episode. I think people are seeing the graphic, but yeah, it's out now on my own channel. But you can, feel free to watch that. But I've explained in detail about kind of how we've been stripped of matches off the pre-show, and then obviously stripped of matches on the actual show. We're going to just see that for stuff like the Rumble, the Chamber, and now Survivor Series, we do get these 4 match cards, and only really. When they go to obviously WrestleMania, SummerSlam, or even into Saudi, do we get more matches? But then, does that mean the Rumble being in Saudi? Does that mean we get more matches potentially? Because usually the Saudi shows do have more matches than other non WrestleMania, SummerSlam PLEs. So it'll be interesting seeing what happens next year. But yeah, I think it's very difficult. I think I can understand from their perspective because WarGames matches require a lot of setup, and obviously they see it as there's 10 wrestlers obviously in each of the matches, plus whoever they decide to have return, I guess, randomly. And so that you're looking at 2 matches that are going to be the best part of or over an hour long. But a lot of this is the fault of the format, and why I dislike WarGames quite a lot is because the match is the match beyond, isn't it? Like the match doesn't start until everyone enters. So you basically end up watching 20 minutes of basically fighting that can't actually have an impact on the decision, really, until the match actually begins, as to what time you then get another 15-20 minutes of what is usually a decent match, like after that point. But my main gripe with it is all the before. Like, why not, like with the Chamber, for example? I think the best part about the Chamber is the fact that we have seen in the past, entrance 1 and 2 start, and we've seen even the incumbent champion, we've seen them lose their championship within that first 5 minutes, and then it opens up the match to the other 5 competitors to come in one by one and to crown a new champion. But we can't get that in WarGames. We can't get that excitement of, there's maybe we get to the point where we're halfway through and one side has wiped out the other side completely. And so someone's coming into that cage with 3 wrestlers from the opposite team, ready to basically beat them up.
I do like the numbers game. I do like the advantage. I do like that kind of stuff. But I'm with you on the kind of feeling like, well, the match hasn't started because they don't ring the bell till like 20 minutes into the match.
Yeah.
For that 20 minutes, I always at that moment feel like they hype it as like, now we go, and I always think, I can't do another 15 minutes of this. So I always think they'd be better off if they ended the match in 5 minutes at one point, just to kind of freshen it up.
Yeah, I think obviously the advantage. I think the advantage doesn't really have a payoff either, because there's no. If there was obviously elimination before everyone came out, the advantage could actually mean something, because you could obviously have 2-on-1 that could then become 3-on, 3-on-1, 4-on-1, 5-on-1 even, potentially, depending how you go on it. And that was a big selling point about Survivor Series matches we've seen in the past. We have seen teams go down to those conditions, and and the other way around. Or we've seen teams where it's been, very even. So it's been like 5-4, then 4-4, and 3-4, all that kind of stuff. So, but you can't get any of that in WarGames. But look, outside the format, which, like I said, we've covered on this channel previously with WarGames, and every year it gets mentioned. And obviously,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just like WarGames. It's now logged in.
Yeah, like I
But
said, there is a dedicated
out,
video if people want to know your thoughts in more detail. And again, I do encourage people to go check out Lucas's channel with the latest episode of the Lucas Jackson show where he talks again, as you can see from the graphic there, just wanted some more matches from Triple H. So yeah, go and give him a subscription and check out his stuff there as well. But always appreciative to have him on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel as well. So yeah.
but yeah, we got 4 matches today. So I guess obviously WarGames is going to be the main attractions. I'd imagine that this year the men's one is going to be the main event, and I imagine the women's one will be the one that opens, which I think has been the case for the past few years. I can't remember the last time the women actually main evented. But it might have been the first NXT one. I think they did. It may have been the main event, but I think the men have definitely the last 2 years, because obviously we had CM Punk's return a couple of years ago. We had Randy Orton as part of it. We didn't even Randy Orton return as part of WarGames one year as well, didn't we?
Yeah, so that year, because that was the joke, wasn't it? Randy even said, "Oh, you can't
That was
even
the
let
same
me,"
year, wasn't it?
you know. It
Yeah.
was the same thing, but I think like it brings up some great moments. It does, and I do think there's room for that to happen this time round as well. We'll touch on again both war games, but we'll start with. We'll do it maybe the way that we think it might be going down then with the women's as well. I'm going to quickly get some comments here before we do. So Casper says, I won't be watching it live. I'll be watching it Sunday with your brother. Good on you, Casper. I hope you guys enjoy it together. And I can see you got another comment here as well. I don't like Nia Jax's team much. Becky Lynch, yes. Kabuki Warriors, okay. Not a massive fan of Lash Legends and not a massive fan of, and says hi to you, Lucas, as well. Casper also says Raw was under delivering for a while until AJ Lee returned and Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns returned in that Survivor Series as well. Again, some great points there from Casper that I have relied on these big returning figures for both War Games matches. And again, we'll get into that in a bit more detail very soon. But let's do that. I mean, the graphic here, you can see the focus is very much on the Vision. That's the story that's being told, and it's really unfortunate because the Vision isn't what the Vision was already. Because I got rid of Seth and the injury and all that kind of stuff, called the Audible, if you will. And we don't really know where it's going. It looked like Logan Paul had officially joined the Vision at one stage, and I'm not quite sure if that is the case anymore. And I was actually looking forward to seeing that it might be what they were doing. But let's move away from the men's for now and talk about the women's there. Again, we did see from Casper's comment there, some of the people, some of the people that are featured in this match. Of course, you do have the baby faces on the left-hand side. Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, AJ Lee, of course, in a big returning match for her. Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. That's where the story's coming into this a little bit with Charlotte and Rhea. On the opposite side, of course, the bad guys. You've got Lash Legend, Nia Jax, Becky Lynch, and the Kabuki Warriors of Kairi Sane and Asuka. Now, some great talent in this match, and I do think it'll be fun. I think there'll be good moments to it. But I'm with you, Lucas, on the storyline of being a little bit strange and lackluster when they don't have traditional kind of teams. And that seems to be the case more often with the women. Now, with this year's edition, again, the big story going into it seems to be a Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair kind of issue, which I kind of get, but I also don't want, because I'm enjoying the Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss thing. We don't need to be reminded of the things that people don't like about Charlotte Flair. And it feels like that's the strange narrative they've decided to squeeze in here. Don't get me wrong, we've seen this before in the past of like two people going, oh, we used to hate each other, but we're both baby faces now, so we just say, oh, I've always respected you, but hey, one day we'll sort our differences. And that's kind of where they've been with Rhea, especially on her side of things, with Charlotte. Charlotte's been more of a kind of, I can't trust you, I don't know if I can trust you. And it just seems rich coming from the kind of character that Charlotte is. And it's a strange reminder of what wasn't working with Charlotte a few months ago. So, what are your thoughts on it? Because that's the kind of, I guess the feel I've got from the build at least.
So yeah, I think they just did the two latter segments the wrong way round. So how they did it is they obviously had Charlotte and Alexa lost the tag team belts to Kabuki Warriors. That's fine. By detraction by Lash Legend and Nia Jax. Okay, and to be fair, Nia Jax and Lash Legend have had like a history on NXT, and that's carried on to the main roster, and they've kind of built up the kind of similar to not exactly how the bar did it, but kind of how the bar kind of became a team. They decided they had mutual respect, and now they're at it. And I definitely believe, I've always maintained that there needs to be in the women's tag division that kind of team anyway. Because a lot of the teams are quite samey, and so I've always liked it when they've had a team like that. Because it's similar to why even like Nia and Shayna, wasn't it? They were a team, and actually won the belts about 2 or 3 times, I believe. But what I feel but what they had happened, they had Charlotte then they come out with the Bayface team and just say she couldn't do it because Rhea Ripley was involved and blah blah. But what they then did, and in my opinion did wrong, is they did the segment where she came out and helped the team on the next week's episode, and then they did the face-to-face sit-down thing of Rhea Ripley. I would have swapped those two around. I would have had the sit-down Rhea Ripley and end on like a cliffhanger of like her still saying, "Oh, I don't know if I can trust you. I'll let you know," kind of thing. You'll know by Survivor Series, and then obviously the villains can have something to kind of poke and bait at with the babyface team, going, "Well, you've only got 4 members, we've got 5, we're a unit." And then having Charlotte Flair return, even though yes, it would only be like a week away, but it's enough to get a pop. For Charlotte Flair to return and become the 5th woman, and then to have obviously even like the Survivor Series itself have obviously Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley kind of embrace there. But I do maybe think they might still do something at the show where maybe there's a moment where Charlotte or Rhea try something, or they need help doing something, and the other one's looking like, "Oh, should I?" And then they're going to do it, and then they end up doing it, and that's the big pop on the show. But yeah, I think they tried to basically fabricate something into this, and I think we can always notice when something's not authentic, and particularly because like when was it they faced each other at WrestleMania? It was like 3 years ago, like. It was ages ago. Like, it's too far for us to.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was 5 years ago.
Actually, wasn't it just last Mania? When was the last Charlotte?
No, last Mania she faced Tiffany.
One before that, sorry.
Yeah, so.
Oh no, was she injured then? Wouldn't she? Did she miss the whole year? Yeah, she
Yes,
missed the whole year, didn't she?
Yeah.
So maybe so maybe at least 3-4 years since they faced each other. I mean, it's too long, really, in my opinion. And the fact that we can't remember when it happened, I think that says it all, doesn't it? And don't get me wrong, I think I've liked the stuff that's going on with the Kabuki Warriors, but I like always think kind of isolated. I don't think they've done enough to really become like a team thing. There's no reason like why the Kabuki Warriors suddenly called like Nia Jax and Lash Legend, like and even Becky Lynch, like hanging around with them when they've been doing their own kind of thing. But there's a lot of little stories that are woven into this one that make it, in my opinion, actually more interesting than the men's in a weird way. And I think that obviously we've got the fact that none of these women really have had any interaction with the current, either of the current, women's champions. So obviously we haven't seen, outside of, I think, not even Charlotte. Sorry, put the graphic up again. I don't think any of them have. Apart from Io faced Stephanie, hasn't she? And Rhea and Tiffany haven't been on the same brand. Then we've got Alexa, again, hasn't done anything with the champions. Charlotte.
Tiffany ages
Charlotte
ago,
and Tiffany, obviously, yes, that's the most famous one out of all the rivalries here. But even that, like, you could argue it's now a different Charlotte Flair. But what I'm getting at is we haven't seen any of these women here really have much interaction with the women's world champions. And so, are we looking at this one really? We should be looking at like the impressive performances. Is this going to lead us into the woman who will become the Rumble winner and the Chamber winner, and ultimately go on to fight for the World Championships? Come WrestleMania season. Because we don't really know anyone else. Like, and it must be one of these 10. We assume like one of the, at least one of these 10 must have a shot at getting one of those matches at WrestleMania. So I think for that reason, this match is actually more interesting because they could decide Lash Legend's going to dominate and she's going to get the pin, and maybe she's going to go on and do some bits, post this. Or, like you say, they could decide the other way where they stick with their comfort and go, we're going to make Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, we're going to give them another run in the sun kind of thing. So, but I think for many reasons, this match is more interesting than the men's one.
Yeah, I think you're right as well with these interwoven stories. Again, as much as we talk about the problems in some of the build and the format for WarGames in general, there are still some good things about it, and that I think is something that I do. It's like with the Rumble. I always like when stories are told in the Rumble and then they continue outside the Rumble. So there's a lot of stories here. I think that they can do. That kind of justice with as well. As you say, even the Rhea and Charlotte thing are kind of a big pop with, they're both putting in the figure eight or whatever it is. But then, yeah, as you say, some of these can come out of it, and then you've also got, like you say, star makers potentially in this as well. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Before we do move on to the next match, let's try and lock in some predictions for this one then, Lucas. Again, I'll bring the graphic up just so we're all aware who is in the match. And just to recap, again, the babyface team of Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, AJ Lee, Charlotte, and Alexa versus Lash Legend, Nia Jax, Becky, and the Kabuki Warriors. I think I'm leaning towards the baby faces on this one because of the Rhea and Charlotte thing. Again, what I really don't want to see happen is Charlotte can't act like a heel, but not even break up her own tag team. So really, it's not a massive heel turn anyway, and it's kind of wasted. That's the way I could see the baby faces losing by some sort of implosion. And it doesn't. The biggest threat is Charlotte and Rhea. So I don't see Rhea turning heel. And I don't see them wasting Charlotte's heel turn just yet, or on Rhea when it could be on Alexa. So yeah, for me, I think because there are less likely things to go wrong for the good guys, it usually means the good guys will win. So I think I'm going to go with the baby faces on this one. What are your thoughts?
Same. I think, given that there's not a women's world champion in the match, and that there is someone who is a bit more disposable over on the villain side, that being obviously Nia Jax. Even Lash Legend, but I think Nia Jax out of the two, because of Legend is just starting out, obviously, her kind of main roster stuff. I think you've got the de facto someone who will just take like big moves and get pinned. You've got her on that side, and then even if they want to do something kind of a bit more daring, you've still got the fact that you've got the Kairi Sane Asuka kind of situation where she could try to. As I think again to remember, you've got the Kairi and Asuka situation which has been going on for a few months now. Where obviously there's some sort of dynamics going on. Does Kairi turn on Asuka? There's lots of things. I think lots more things that happen on that side. But yeah, so I would go with the babyface team winning. And I do think they'll probably tease or flirt with, like you say, Charlotte Flair doing something, but I don't think they're going to pull the trigger. I think they'll be very dumb to her at the moment because she's actually getting received very well at the moment. Yeah. So I think her turning, like, it's just not going to be what people want, and it should be a waste. You may as well wait. Yeah. Just soak this up a little bit, have some fun. Because the thing with Charlotte Flair is, by all accounts, like obviously, there's always going to be people that have bad days with things, but by all accounts, like when you read into like interactions you have with fans, whether it be at official meet and greets, or meet and greets done at the arena, or the one that you shouldn't do, guys, at the hotels and stuff like that, like generally people don't have a bad word to say about her. People say she's lovely, she's really nice to meet, we want to speak to, she spends a lot of time, so she's got a nice side to her. Just keep putting that on TV, and people will like her. I think just trying to force another kind of world championship run at the moment, like it's just not needed. We want new women to be in the picture, and you've got new women now. You've got obviously Jade Cargill on the SmackDown side of things, and you've got Stephanie Vicaire over on the Raw side of things. Just let them do their thing. Charlotte just need to get more title reigns.
Yeah, I think Charlotte going into a big blood feud in WrestleMania season makes a lot of sense, and there's none better. For me, I'd keep her the babyface. I'd have Alexa Bliss turn on her. So. But we'll see where we go with that one. Look, let's get into some of these comments as well. Keep them coming, guys. Appreciate them. Ashley says, I love the women's team matches in WarGames, and I love the excitement and unpredictability of it. Also says, this is a great lineup for Saturday. They are on the same page for Saturday. And then also says, keeps the fans guessing with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Would they come together in the end? Casper says, did we get a surprise heel turn from someone at Survivor Series? Not a fan of this hot potatoing with NXT and all the different Raw SmackDown titles stuff. Again, I know that's something that Lucas, you focused on heavily in your previous episode of the Lucas Jackson Show, was all the titles and things like that on your channel. So again, if you want to hear more of Lucas's thoughts on the ridiculous amount of titles in pro wrestling at the moment, then go and check that episode out. Ashley also says it was 2023 the last time that Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. Thank you, Ashley. Always good to get you guys feeding in when we can't remember something, so we appreciate that.
Was that at WrestleMania though, or was that?
I think it was the one at WrestleMania. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
it was. It was a very good match. was a very good match, and I get that they've had history and a rivalry and stuff, but I just fear that if this was Survivor Series 2023 and we was talking about that as a rivalry, it absolutely makes sense. But I think
Yeah.
to go beyond like the year, in my opinion, is a bit much. You know, it's
Yeah.
like when Undertaker returned to fight off Brock Lesnar after like 16 months, like 10 years ago. Do you remember? Like he lost a streak at WrestleMania 30, decided not to appear again until he faced Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 31, and then just came back like 4 months later in the summer to avenge his loss against Brock Lesnar from a year and a half ago.
It's
Like,
like,
come
get
on,
over it.
either get over it or just have the back-to-back
Yeah.
mania.
Everybody else has moved on, mate. Right, so Casper
Sorry,
says, loving Dominic Mysterio versus John Cena stuff. Yeah, can't wait to talk about that one. It says, I got my brother back into wrestling. I do find WWE a bit underwhelming, but I'm still watching the shows. Again, can't wait to talk about that. Good to hear you getting your brother back into wrestling, Casper. It's been. Look, we've said it in the past few years. I think we are still technically in a boom period. I think things are great, but things, don't get me wrong, I think have dipped lately in certain aspects, and we've covered that on this channel quite a bit. So definitely see where you're coming from, but it's a good time to bring people back into it.
Casper, when did your brother stop watching out of interest? Because that's always what I'm very interested in. You know, was it like a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, something? You know what I mean? Because it's the product has changed, like, you know, multiple times, obviously, even within the last year, really, I'd argue. So yeah, let us know, guys. Let us know in the comment below, like, when your brother stopped watching wrestling. I'm very interested in that. And obviously, we're going to talk about the other stuff. I think in terms of underwhelming, like, I think it's just very it's very cleansed now, isn't it? The product, it's very cleansed, and it's missing a lot of that excitement. And I think something that's brought the excitement recently has been this. The last time is now tournament, you know, because we've had some surprise returns, like from outside the company. We've had and some really good matches, and there's still that with a tournament like the Rumble or anything like that. There's that kind of like, oh, we're getting down to the numbers now. Like we're down to like the final 8. Like who's gonna get that last opportunity? And don't get me wrong, guys. We are going to be covering that. It's in a couple of weeks, isn't it? You know, we are a couple of weeks out. His last match, but we are going to cover that separately. And yeah, like I think it's interesting, but I think now WWE have put themselves in a position where the winter is a very cool period anyway. Like cools off a bit, and then it rebuilds really from the Rumble.
Yeah.
You know, to the extent where a lot of the shows I can imagine post Cena's retirement until about early January, you know, I don't think are going to be as worth watching. There might be a few skippable episodes along the route, but then once I think they get to January, stuff ramps up again. But it's interesting you say that, because I think particularly because, you know, do you remember that period in like 2022, 2023 when like Triple H first took over? And it was like every week Raw was selling out arenas, and the shows were like selling out in like minutes, all that kind of stuff. But we're not there now. And like obviously some of it is linked to obviously a very talked about topic obviously in the wrestling industry at the moment, obviously the ticket prices and how they've gone up and up and up. But some of it is also down to the fact that, yeah, because there are people who will still pay those top prices, and we see them every week on Raw and on PLEs and stuff. But we are seeing empty seats now, you know. So it's a case of the product may not be as hot as it once was. Definitely not for WrestleMania 40. I think that was the absolute kind of peak. Like that build, I think, from Survivor Series 2023 up to WrestleMania 40 was the hottest they've had in a long while. You know, it felt cool again. Like I had people, obviously, who dipped out of wrestling, you know, 10, 15 years ago, and they'd be messaging me, they'd be talking to me. You know, when someone saw you and we were a wrestling t-shirt outside, like, you know, they understood who these people were again. You know, The Rock was, you know, he was back. You know, it was cool again to talk about wrestling. And obviously, yeah, it's only natural it dipped after that because The Rock obviously decided to do whatever he does. And then we haven't had it as hot since then. But I have a feeling they're cooking something big for WrestleMania. I think all the adverts that we're seeing, you know, are being done for a reason. There's something big coming, I think.
Yeah, they've just released today. Actually, I haven't seen it yet, but the female version of the ad they did with all the male
Wow, that's good.
top stars as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Again, I haven't managed to see it yet, but I agree. I think the promo already is pointing in that kind of direction.
Because they've also released. Hi, Kieran. By the way, sorry. They've also released single day tickets. I think a few weeks earlier than we did last year, which is maybe a telling sign. They're trying to get as many people to these events, you know, and clear out obviously all the expensive tickets, because you know last year or this year, sorry, this is WrestleMania. You know, they did struggle for a little bit, you know, to get those numbers way up there. But usually it's a telling sign when they're releasing tickets earlier for things, because it means they want those tickets to sell for longer. Not have a situation where, there's still a lot of people who are in the buying tickets on the day club now. Every forum, every post I see is full of that because of these ticket prices. But they're thinking if they have the tickets out for longer, potentially people might start getting a bit, itchy feet, and thinking, they're selling out a bit.
Yeah, they're bound to sell out soon because they've been on sale for so long and that kind of thing. So it does make sense. It is interesting, as you say, to see what tactics they use, because it's, as like you mentioned, we've touched on it before on this channel, and you've touched on it particularly in a video as well. But money is, it's not the same as it was. It seems for a lot of people, and they're doing this at the wrong time, essentially. But hey, let's get to some more comments here as well. Kieran's in the house says, what time does it start tomorrow? Saturday, I believe,
midnight.
In the UK, it's a midnight. I might be wrong on that, though. Sometimes it does end up being 11. I think the last show was a little bit earlier, but I think this one, the time zones have kind of caught up. It was that awkward period last time where our clocks had changed, but they hadn't in the States or something like that. So Ashley thinks that Rhea Ripley's team is going to win in the women's WarGames match as well. And Casper says WWE is still not as good as the Attitude Era, but I'm still watching the shows and still enjoy some stuff. Would love Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. Was fan of the Logan Paul. First, we'll be touching on them, of course, for the men's war game as well. And WrestleMania 39, says Ashley, as far as when Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair fought off against each other, is last as well. Casper also says, had to get used to seeing Logan Paul as part of the Vision. Again, I'm not sure if he's in the Vision. I want him to be in the Vision, but again, maybe that's something we'll touch on a little bit more when it comes to the men's war games match in a little bit. Talking about how his brother dipped out of wrestling, Lucas, got a little bit of update from Casper as well. Again, just trying to, for those just tuning in, we're just trying to understand when Casper's brother stopped watching wrestling because he's trying to get back into it. 8 years ago, it might be longer. My brother did enjoy the Attitude Era, but remember me. NXT deadline, I said it's main event 2 weekends time. Yeah, there's a lot coming
busy
up.
Weekend,
I should say. Midnight in the UK, says Ashley as well. We'll get to some more of these comments as we make our way through the show. Keep them coming, guys. We want to know what you think is going to happen at Survivor Series. And again, we hope you're enjoying the show. But Lucas, 8 years ago.
8 years ago. So we're 2017. So I think this was,
we're trying to get through a rough period, if we're honest.
Yeah, it was peak kind of Vince hoarding the talent from outside. I think it was just before he started signing people to 5-year deals, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To keep their services, ahead of, just before AEW came along as well. So I think we were at that kind of tail end of kind of a lot of the bad, to be fair. So it's interesting. So I think obviously coming back now, it must be very different though, because obviously Vince was putting out. Although he was putting out shows of questionable quality, there was still a lot of quantity to what was going on in terms of the amount of shows. I think they just stopped doing the single brand pay-per-views during 2017, but there was still pretty much one every month, and the cards were quite stacked still. Do you know what I mean? You'd have shows with multiple matches, and it was still trying to sell the network. And the value of the network. So obviously they were still very keen to make sure they're pumping out, shows in many matches, and we had some events that even the B shows will be 4 hours long. So it's interesting coming back now, how he feels it is now.
Yeah, there will be a lot of change.
8 years removed, because it's very different now. The product very different, but always good to hear your comments as well, guys. So please keep them coming.
Exactly that. And again, you're tuned in to the weekend kickoff show. WWE aren't doing the kickoff this time around, guys, so we thought we'd fill that gap, and I hope you're enjoying the show. Talking of gaps, though, unfortunately, we won't be around for our build-up show, where we usually get you hyped up and in the mood on the day of the PLE, just because of conflicting commitments this time around. But as Lucas said, we'll try and cover as much as we can heading into those final moments of John Cena's career in a few weeks' time as well. But let's stick to Survivor Series for now, and seeing as we just mentioned, what some people call the GOAT. I wouldn't go that far, but certainly a huge name in wrestling history. Let's touch on him a little bit more here as well. We've got John Cena, the Intercontinental Champion, John Cena, I might add. Something that wasn't the case last time we were live, Lucas. Facing off against Dominic Mysterio, the former champion, of course. Now, this is interesting because, again, I remember on our last streams talking about the IC title and saying, I've heard this rumor, and it just started to kind of bubble under the surface at the time that Cena would win it from Dom, and I think a lot of people expected it to be here at Survivor Series. It wasn't the case. He won it in Boston on Monday Night Raw in an incredible moment, and I've really enjoyed what they've done the past few weeks with John Cena. By the way, his last show in MSG as well, I thought was really good. His last time in Boston, his last Monday Night Raw, really really cool stuff. So it's not the way I thought they'd go with it, but I'm still glad they did it anyway. I'm glad he finally got the Intercontinental title, which is always surreal to me. If me from 15 years ago could see me sitting here now going, I'm glad Cena won, I'd be very shocked at that, because I was very much in the camp of Cena wins too much. But hey, things have changed, and I'm glad to see him on his way out get these kind of final flowers, if you will. But yeah, leading to an interesting matchup. Again, I really enjoyed what they did, but I think on Raw, it was the emotion. It was Boston. It was final time there. It was can he actually do this? And I think everybody in attendance, probably a lot of them would have heard the rumors and thought, I think he is going to do it. But the buzz was really really there. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do together at Survivor Series, because it's a PLE, but I'm not sure it's going to capture that same kind of magic. And we were wondering if him being IC champ meant his final match would be for that title, and maybe Gunther would take it off of him. Now, that could still be the case. We don't know. But to me, it's looking more likely that Dom wins it back here. But hey, we'll get to actual predicting it in a moment. But what have your thoughts been on the kind of Intercontinental reign, I guess, if you will, of John Cena?
Yeah, I'm guessing that it definitely seems like it's been chalk and cheese, and obviously we keep saying this, and we most likely will do like a kind of full dissection of obviously this run, this retirement tour, because especially if rumors are to be believed that next year obviously AJ Styles might get one similar, and it may be seeing they're talking about obviously if Jericho is going to return, it's like a Hall of Fame retirement run. It just seems that this may become a norm in wrestling, maybe not in wrestling, maybe at least in WWE, where they're going to plan these things out a bit. But Cena's obviously the first and arguably the biggest one they're going to be able to do for the foreseeable. Particularly because Cena's someone he's never been outside their doors. He's very much that company guy. I think obviously AJ Styles will retire, but he's wrestled elsewhere. CM Punk will retire, but again he's wrestled elsewhere. Same with Cody even. All people that have wrestled outside sort of but he's someone who's literally been part of us for ages.
There you go.
I think with this one you've got the special factor really is that it is the bittersweetness of this. It is John Cena's final ever PLE match, and I think that we can sit and talk and speculate all day, about like if he is one of the people that means it. It just seemed that he just leaned more towards that side, where I think that he will be happy to after December 13th, pretty much just start dressing like a civilian again and just go on with his life outside wrestling. But obviously, we can never say never in this, because there's always a WrestleMania, there's always a Rumble, there's always something to come. But as of this recording, it is tomorrow night. In San Diego at Survivor Series WarGames, it is John Cena's final ever match on a PLA, and I think that will be some of the emotion in the room. I do fear that they may try to overbook this match a little with interference from Judgment Day members and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm with you, and I think that this has been designed to get the title back on a Dominic Mysterio, and it saves them the problem with having to do the last match for the championship. Which the thing is, they have done this previously. I think obviously Trish Stratus's original retirement match, she went in as a champion and she won, and then they had to vacate the belt afterwards. So there is obviously precedence to this, but I think they may, because this is one of those things. It was done as like a nice moment, like it's happened. Like the history books are going to read that John Cena is a Grand Slam champion. That John Cena, he won the championship in his hometown, and that the reign was never meant to be a reign where he has loads of title defenses and he has like amazing matches and all that. It was just designed to tick that box, wasn't it? Of just get him to Grand Slam. Like this could have been a story they could have told like throughout the whole year potentially, but they obviously went differently. With it, he was WWE champion for most of the year, and then obviously now he won the IC championship. But yeah, I think this has been designed very much to get the championship back on Dominic Mysterio, where it absolutely should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was more thinking when they took it off him, I was like, okay, because look, I think he's amazing, and I've liked him with it. And when he won it, I was so happy. But it's got to end at some point, right? So I feel like whoever beats him, it won't be as impactful now because he's lost it to Cena. So you've kind of lost that moment in a way, and he don't need it anymore because he's got the AAA Mega title. So like he's got a title. So I don't know. So I mean, there is a chance he doesn't win it back, but let's get into that. Let's get into predictions. And again, guys, we want to know your comments, what you think of this card, what you think is going to happen, and who you predict to win the matches overall as well. But let's get to it. I think ultimately I will go with John Cena losing, and Dominic Mysterio getting the title back. But I can see a world where it doesn't happen. And as you say, he goes into his final match as champion or something like that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the last match is the last match, and I think that sells itself. We don't have the championship involved with it. It doesn't really, particularly because obviously if we're following what we think will happen, it's going to be Gunther. It doesn't need to bounce back to Gunther. And then if you have it vacated, I guess to be fair, the only thing that it could help them with is obviously this kind of lull with it we are going to have after December 13th until basically the week or two before the Rumble, because there is always that lull, isn't there? That happens. So if there is a vacant championship and they do a tournament or something, yeah, they would do a tournament. It's them. There's obviously something to kind of tune into the TV to watch, for a few weeks. But like, if that tournament is then won by Gunther, I swear to God. But anyway, I think the only way really I think it continuing. I think that Dominic Mysterio should just get it back. I don't believe he's too weakened by it. I'm not going to say he's bulletproof because that's risky in this business, but I do think that there's a lot here where it's the emotion. It was in his hometown. He was distracted off his game, and because he's a villain, I don't think it actually ruins him that much. I think if he was a babyface, it would hurt him more. Like a babyface losing it kills momentum. They've got to build back up the fan support. But because Dominic Mysterio is already kind of, he's still as over without the belt as he was with the belt, which
Yeah.
I think just showcases when he wins it back, he'll only become more heated from doing so. Could this have been done a few weeks earlier in the run potentially? But obviously the hometown thing I think really has helped this momentum a lot, and it being obviously seen as one of Cena's final ever Raws as well, which were obviously one of those things. But
it was a perfect storm for emotion, wasn't it? Presentation was great, so
yeah,
that's why I just wonder if this one can really match it. And again, they'll have to go in the opposite direction. Really, it would have to be heinous, awful Judgment Day, doing what they're doing, and that kind of, I mean, that helps them anyway, doesn't it? So,
yeah,
especially if they haven't really done this because Cena's not. I mean, this is what makes me think it's even more likely that this is it for Cena. He's not been tempted to when he really could have been because it wasn't that kind of concrete, but it was at least said. But as soon as he turned babyface, they would have had an excuse to change his mind. But yeah, they didn't add the extra dates when it did start to feel like, oh, we haven't got enough here to tell the stories we want to tell. And they've managed to just squeeze it out. So I do think he's going to stick to his word because they didn't even fall for that temptation, essentially. But yeah, I think a different story will be told, but I'm looking forward to seeing what it will be. Let's get to some more of these comments before we move on to the next match. Funny Guy is in the house. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for all your comments. It says, bro, I can't wait to watch Survivor Series and Dominic and John Cena for the Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series. Again, a match that me and Lucas are looking forward to as well. Casper also feeding back on this kind of theme of getting back into wrestling. Of course, Casper said earlier on he's getting his brother back into it. It says he only himself got back into watching around 2022, 2023. Also says John Cena is the Intercontinental Champion. Was having a conversation with my brother about this match. I said John Cena might lose to Dominic, but brother, both agree he might also be going out on a high. John Cena defends the title twice as Survivor Series and Saturday Night Main Event. Cena might relinquish the belt is what Casper thinks might happen as well. And says, I think John Cena will win, so it doesn't derail his farewell tour. So he's actually going to go with Cena on this one. Again, I do see where you're coming from. I do see that as a possibility there, buddy. B. Peterson's in the house says Team Cody must win WarGames. We're going to get to the men's WarGames in just a bit, buddy. And you know exactly what we think about it as well. Go ahead, Lucas.
I think I would have been more inclined for Cena to win this one if he hadn't beaten Styles, because that was his 100th pay-per-view win, wasn't it, against Styles? Because it was meant to, obviously he lost to Lesnar.
They really are padding all the stats, aren't they?
And so yes, I think that it's just a nice number, isn't it? Like just to say, in years to come, John Cena had like 100 pay-per-view wins. That's that's the goalpost. 101 is just a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, technically, as you've kind of alluded to, really, but Saturday Night's Main Event isn't a PLE; it's a special show, but they don't.
Yeah.
It's not a traditional PLE, so they can, unless they've counted some of them already. I don't know if they have, but if they haven't, then yeah, they don't need to get to 101. They could leave it at 100. It's a nice figure anyway. Let's get to the next match. Again, we're going to talk about men's WarGames. Before that, we're going to do the other match we haven't done yet. But I did want to touch on this comment here from B. Kids. And again, Zenifatu must debut on WarGames, please, everyone. Oh, that's an interesting.
No more Samoans, please.
Topic. Yeah. Hey, I think he looks good though. We'll touch on again.
Yes, they got rid of the other one, didn't they? Who got released recently?
Yeah. He was injured, wasn't he? Quite a bit, and that was.
Lance, no, something like that.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, one of them got released recently, so maybe it is a one in, one out kind of policy.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, it's like too many men in the nightclub, you know. All right, let's move into the women's world title. Stephanie Becker facing off against Nikki Bella. Look, it was always going to happen, right? Nikki Bella was always going to turn heel, but I got to say, I enjoyed the way they did it. I do think Nikki came back in a good kind of babyface role, but she was ultimately going to turn into, big bad Nikki Bella, So I'm happy with this. I think it helps Stephanie Becker. I think it makes it look really good if she, especially can conquer Nikki Bella. I'm not sure if she will be conquering Nikki Bella. I'm not sure if this is a feud that ends here, if one goes a little bit longer. It really is hard to tell at the moment with this one for me. But again, a match I'm intrigued to see, and I'm intrigued to see what kind of story they tell within it. So yeah, Lucas, what have you thought about the build for this one here? Nikki Bella, of course, turning on Stephanie about a week or so ago now, I believe. And Stephanie.
It was on that same Raw that Cena obviously won the title. And I think this was done quite well because obviously it was Cena's hometown, and there obviously is history between Nikki
of course.
And so I think having the turn done here was a bit of a masterclass, really, because to be fair, I was quite happy that actually Nikki Bella got a warm reception. I've never been a fan of this whole motive that because they split up that she's now the bad person because of it. Like if there was something in the relationship that happened, but by all accounts it was an amicable breakup. They split up. It was years ago as well. If it was like the Edge Lita thing, fair enough. Like, but we're talking about someone who went out with someone and decided not to go out anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, they got involved with. Obviously, they did the whole proposal. It's mad, isn't it? That was 2017 as well, wasn't it? Well, 2018, 2017.
Yeah, it might be.
Is that when your brother dipped out of wrestling, Casper?
Was that the moment?
Sort of a proposal and went, no, not for me.
Yeah, so who come back well confused when they're not married?
But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But yeah, I think the turn was done very well. Like it'd be interesting to know, obviously, and something which may be covered on the next season of Unreal, is what would have been the original plan for Nikki Bella had Liv Morgan not have got injured, because obviously Liv Morgan was rumoured to be Nikki Bella's opponent at Evolution back in July. And then what we got was Nikki Bella obviously in the Battle Royal, and then she then did a couple of matches here and there, throughout the summer. But this has been her first proper kind of feud, isn't it? That we actually sink her teeth into. And she's done the turn, she's against Stephanie. And something she spoke about very recently is that this run, however long it obviously lasts for, is her final run of the company. And obviously she's early 40s. And she has obviously mentioned too about she would love to end her career the same way she started it, with obviously Brie Bella as part of the package. And obviously there's been a lot of rumours about why Brie Bella's not been around, and she's obviously out of the two. She's got obviously family commitment. Well, Nikki has a kid as well, but she has 2 young kids. She's married and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I do think that a return we could see tonight, and it would be nice to see, would be Brie Bella. I don't know if that signals that the end of Nikki Bella's in-ring thing is maybe closer, or if it is a case of now the proper run begins. Does that make sense? Like, do we get, is she going to sign like a 2-year deal, maybe 3-year deal, and see this out with? Because there's lots of stories they can tell with both of them. And obviously, you have to imagine if both of them are involved, there'll also be a feud between the two coming up down the line too. And yeah, I think all in all, I've said this. I think we said this at the women's tag belts ages ago as well, didn't we? Where we said the Bellas they could add a lot of value. And I think even with oops, sorry, ignore that. Even with whatever's going on, even if it's for the world title, I think there's still a lot of value they can add. And Nikki's proven that she can. I mean, she had that really kind of weird match with Becky Lynch at Clash, but I think outside that, she's proven she can still go. She's up for it, so why not, eh?
Yeah, and I don't think it'd be the worst thing for her to become champion. Put her that on her CV, but put her name in the record books for that title as well. Of course, it is technically a new championship. So there's that as well. And I don't think it's a bad thing for Stephanie. I think, not saying I want her to lose the title, but she's had it for a fair amount of time, it feels, and it's been a decent run. She's been elevated, and I think this might even elevate her more, because she can come back and try and win it again or whatever, get a few matches out of this. But I do like the idea of Brie coming back. Maybe again we'll see something like that on the Survivor Series, and we will touch on a few kind of rumored returns in a little bit as well. I'm sure the men's WarGames, but yeah, I like the idea of Brie, and even if it is because it is signaling in the end, maybe again you go out WrestleMania. It's kind of getting to that season where we got to start building towards that. So if you said to me, "Oh, the Bella's going to retire at WrestleMania and they're going to have a tag team, run," that would make sense to me as well. So not saying again I'm rushing them out the door or anything, but if that is, as you say, what they look to be doing, then we could be getting closer to that. Let's get to some more of these comments before we actually pick who we think will win. What's the thought? Brock Lesnar falling on Monday Night Raw. And you know what? I've watched that so many times that I'm starting to think it was fake. Like, I'm starting to think they've done it on purpose. Because didn't they do something a little while ago where his trousers split or something like that as well?
Yeah. He's just so clumsy, though. We've seen it previously, haven't we? Like, he's so clumsy when it comes to this. I think it just comes from the fact that he just has just inhuman abilities, which I think just means that, yes, like you and I can do these things and nothing happens, but with Brock Lesnar, he's so intense, isn't he? He's so intense at all times. And so he's coming out, and you can imagine if he's swinging his arms up or he's getting, thing by something.
A lot of momentum.
It's just happened, yeah. I mean, it's like, wasn't it like when he did that blade job in the feud with Triple H, where he took the thing onto the he took a post, turnbuckle on the outside or whatever, and he bladed like it went crazy. And it's like, of course you can do that, Brock, because you're here like 2 or 3 times a year. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not here week in week out having matches like the other guys were at the time. But yeah, no, it was funny. Like I think Brock's shown like a different side to him since he's come back this time, definitely. And yeah, like it's created a great moment, I guess. And then obviously lots of people were touching upon the fact that obviously he put his hat, didn't he, onto Bron Breakker afterwards, which some people are kind of seeing as people are kind of saying that's a signal, so something that might happen. So it is interesting. So if it is like you say, if it is like planned, then maybe this all goes into it. But yeah, like obviously have to talk about Brock Lesnar in the next match anyway. But it was quite a fun moment though. Good spotting it, Casper. Bringing it up.
It's good fun. Casper also says Stephanie Becker versus Nikki Bella, heel turn needed to happen, but I do think Stephanie to win this one. Just my opinion. A massive fan of Stephanie Becker. Yeah, myself included, mate. Really enjoyed what she's done. Maybe if she won it and then Nikki beat her and then we go a little bit longer with it, but I don't mind which way it goes. Again, we'll get into our predictions for it in just a moment. Viroz, I hope I'm saying that right, says, hi, good to see you, Viroz. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know what you think is going to happen at Survivor Series WarGame. This is your weekend kickoff show for WWE Survivor Series 2025 from the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, guys. Chris, I saw called Chris there. Oh, Casper, there we go. Go with your gimmick name. AJ Lee said, AJ Lee, I was going crazy when AJ being absent from Raw. Glad she's back. Need to use her more. Yeah, really enjoyed seeing her back as well. Madman's in the house. Always good to see you, Madman. Hope you are doing well. Says hey as well. Let us know what you think is going to happen. No, Survivor Series isn't today. It is, you're right, it is tomorrow. We are recording this for our weekend kickoff. We won't be doing a build-up show, so lap it up, guys. Take in as much as you can as well. Lucas is going to hop out for just a moment, so we'll let him do that, and hey, we'll chat ourselves in the comments. We'll be back very soon. See you in a bit, Lucas. Right. Let's get some more of these comments here as well. Keep them coming, guys. Want to know what you think is going to happen at Survivor Series and what you're most looking forward to. Again, it's only a 4-match card, but as you'll see from the way we've been predicting it so far, a pretty exciting card. I think it's a show that could throw up some good surprises, which I do want to jump into with Lucas very soon as far as rumours about returns and stuff like that. It's not traditionally a space where returns happen, but hey, we did have a big one with Randy Orton and CM Punk on the same night. So will we see anything happen this time around? Get us, get us in the mood, guys. Let us know what you think is going to happen as far as predictions and possible returns. Says I've been decorating, putting up the Christmas tree. Nice, getting in the mood. You're knackered. Yeah, look, hey, relax, enjoy the weekend, mate. I know you said you're not watching Survivor Series live, but you'll watch it with your brother on Sunday. So I hope you have a great weekend. And of course, I know you always go big with the snacks as well. So I hope you've got some good snacks in for you and your brother as well. Again, we're not doing our build-up show. If you're new here, guys, we usually do it on the day of the PLE, get you guys and us hyped up and in the mood for it. Unfortunately, we can't do it this time around due to other commitments, but we are here with a weekend kickoff show to get you in the mood either way. Madman says Alexa not being in the WrestleMania 42 promo for women's has made for the women has made me a bit sad. She's a better entertainer than anyone else in the video. Yeah, I haven't actually seen who's in it. I said it to Lucas earlier on that I noticed that they'd uploaded it. Let me see who's actually in it from, because I did see the thumbnail. Let's have a look. So, this is great entertainment, isn't it, guys? Me trying to find a video. Go to the channel. Don't put the live. Why is it on YouTube? Press the thing, and it's just going to live. I don't want their live video. I want to see what they've uploaded. Right, here we go. So in the thumbnail, I can see it's Charlotte. No, it's Tiffany, Becky, Charlotte, Rhea, Jade, Io. I mean, it's some lineup. That is some lineup. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Alexa Bliss as well. So yeah, I do. As I said to Lucas, I do wonder if they're going to turn her heel against Charlotte Flair rather than Charlotte turn on her. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. Even though I want to see Alexa as a babyface, I'm enjoying it. I think she's great as a heel anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Casper says feet are tired now. Yeah, a lot of I haven't done any decorations yet, Casper. I've got to try and get on top of it myself pretty soon as well. But as I say, let us know what you think is going to happen. If you're new here, I'm Scott. You've been joined also by Lucas, who'll be back in just a moment to talk all things men's war games. Let's go through the card a little bit before he comes back as well and talk about the things that we've kind of mentioned already. Again, the show itself, I really thought was going to be focused a lot more heavily on the old version of Division. You know, Seth Rollins, of course, is no longer around due to injury, so that hasn't been the case, and they have pivoted. We'll talk about how Division play into it in just a moment. But Survivor Series again this weekend, a show again I'm looking forward to. It does bring up some good moments, especially in recent years when it comes to war games as well. Even though I know Lucas isn't the biggest fan of the concept, there are some good moments. Again, we got a Women's War Games match. Just a reminder of this one, the good guys, of course, as you can see on the left-hand side, Charlotte, Alexa, Io, Rhea, and the returning AJ Lee taking on Becky Lynch, the Kabuki Warriors, Nia Jax, and Lash Legend. Myself and Lucas both went for a victory for the babyfaces here. The thinking was basically is less likely to go wrong with the babyfaces, and when that's the case, it tends to be the babyfaces picking up the victory, it seems sometimes. John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio, again, a match we are both very much looking forward to as well. This one could go either way, but I think both of us have settled on John Cena losing the title and going back over the shoulder of Dominic Mysterio. Now, I don't think Dominic needs to have the title, seeing as he has the AAA Mega title. Not that I don't like him or don't want him as a champion. I just think, look, we've done Dom losing the title. We don't need to have it happen again. So there's another story we could tell, right? But hey, maybe there is more to get out of Dom as Intercontinental Champion, and that's where they'll go with it. But I think, yeah, it probably is going to go back to him rather than staying on Cena and becoming part of his final match. Nikki Bella versus Stephanie Beckers, the match that we've just now predicted. If you're just tuning in, and myself And actually, no, we haven't even predicted that one. We've talked about it. We've talked about the build. We've talked about what it could mean for both people going forward, but we haven't actually predicted that. So we'll get to our final predictions on that when Lucas hops back in as well. Again, let's go back to the men's war games. We're going to be covering this one in just a moment. We've got Jimmy Uso, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and Jey Uso on Team Babyface going up against the bad guys of Drew McIntyre, Bronson Reed, Brock Lesnar, Bron Breakker, and Logan Paul. Again, when Lucas is back, we'll touch on that in a bit more detail as well. But keep your comments coming, guys. Let me know what you think is going to happen at the PLE and what match you're most looking forward to as well. Again, there's only 4. We've talked at length on this channel about how there's, a real need sometimes to be more than the standard 5. And then sometimes for these big shows like Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and Survivor Series War Games, where there are these kind of themed matches, which are quite long in themselves, they do tend to actually only go with 4 as well. But yeah, let me know what you think of the card overall. We were talking a little bit about the Intercontinental Championship, and you can see it over the shoulder of none other than Gunther there, one of the longest reigning, I should say, of all time, of course, champions. We got to have a great conversation with him, and of course, his running buddy there, as you can see, Ludwig Kaiser from Imperium. And we talked a little bit about fashion, probably something you wouldn't expect from a conversation with Gunther. But yeah, lovely guy. Sorry to burst the bubble, guys, but we had a great conversation with him. If you haven't already, check that out. We've also had a great conversation on this channel with the likes of Zelina Vega, and also been very privileged to have a great conversation as well with Rhea Ripley. Again, Rhea Ripley is someone featuring on this weekend's card. Actually tends to do for all PLEs. But again, if you haven't already, check out our conversation with Rhea Ripley on this very channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, guys. Again, it's not just previews and predictions and stuff like that. Again, we do have the opportunity, thankfully, to interview some of your favorite WWE superstars. So if you like the sound of that, subscribe, check out more of our content. Again, there's loads more in the archive. Madman says it's been 8 years since Alexa last won a singles title. I wonder if Triple H will give her a push. I think she deserves a rumble. That's a good point. 8 years. Wow. I mean, there was a bit of time that she was away, weren't there? She was very much involved with the Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton storyline a few years back, so that took her away from that as well. She's now in a tag team, so yeah, it really does stack up after a while. Madman says, I agree. Alexa should turn on Charlotte rather than the other way around. Yeah, I think that is probably the best way to go with the story. But don't want it yet because I'm really enjoying what they're doing. I'm enjoying what it's kind of building for Charlotte as well. Keeps her fresh. Casper says WWE needs to start popping big at Raw and SmackDown shows more to get me excited a bit and to watch WWE excited to watch shows on a weekly basis, but you're still watching the big shows. Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm mainly in PLE myself. Every now and then I'll watch a little bit more than standard highlights, but mainly for Raw and SmackDown. I mean, Raw's too long. I've said it many times on this channel before. It is too long of a show. So yeah, not a big fan of the 3-hour show. Madman says, I genuinely feel myself losing interest in wrestling as a whole. I guess this is what happens when your childhood is finally retiring. Hey, my childhood is long retired, and I'm still very much into wrestling, mate. So there's a hope. That it changes when you get older. Don't get me wrong. It always makes me laugh when you talk to someone as a wrestling fan as an adult when they go, "Oh, it's not real," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I also know the Terminator's not real," and I enjoy that as well. But it's a different, you start watching it for. I remember saying to someone a few years back when Sasha Banks won the title at WrestleMania, it was like when everyone wanted Leonardo DiCaprio to win an Oscar. It's like that crowning moment. It does, yeah, it might not be legitimate competition, but it means something, man. And yeah, look, it's entertaining at the end of the day. So, look, I think there's a bit of a lull at the moment. Lucas mentioned it, Casper mentioned it earlier on. Finding out a bit of love of WWE at the moment. It's not as good as it was, but I think we're still very much in a boom period. We're just having a little bit of a dip within the boom period, if that's the thing. So, look, it could take a dive. Don't get me wrong, but I think at the moment, yeah, just a little bit of I guess a dip in form, if you will, for WWE. Lucas is nearly back, so I'm going to bring him back into the fold very, very soon. But again, keep your comments coming, guys. Let's see if I can do this. I'm having a little bit of a technical issue here. Hold on one moment, and let me see if I can actually bring him back in. That's not working. That's not working. Give me 1 second, guys. Let's keep it how it is for now. Let me see if I can find another way. But again, keep your comments coming, guys. Apologies for the delay. Why is this not working? Sorry, guys. Why is that? I really don't know what the issue is here. Let me see if I can find a better way to make this happen. Right. What we'll do, guys, we'll throw it over to our channel trailer, tell you a little bit more about us, and we'll be back hopefully with a fixed Lucas.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Thank you for bearing with us there. It looks like we got Lucas back. There we go. All right, a little bit of a technical hiccup there, but I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed our little channel trailer. And again, if you're new here, hopefully that whetted your appetite for what we do here at Rebellious Noise as well. Let's get some more of these comments before we throw it over to Lucas, because I realised, Lucas, when you went, we didn't actually give our final predictions for the women's title match. So let's get to that in a moment before we move on to the men's War Games. Casper says, still not a fan of the 4 cards events, and still a massive fan of Sol Ruka over on NXT. Yeah, I think every time I watch Sol Ruka, I'm impressed by what I see. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing more of her, essentially. Madman says, I don't hate WWE at all. I think what I'm saying is I just got just how so many kids stopped watching wrestling when Jeff got fired in 2009. It's 2025 for us Cena fans. Yeah, I get what you mean. It's going to be a shock to the system, to use a Undisputed Era pun, when Cena does leave. For a lot of people, you know, that realization that he's not coming back, guys. Not in the sense of kind of wrestling, at least, anyway. If all is to be believed. Hope so. Walker gets a call up to the main roster. Also enjoying Evolve, not Revolve. Evolve, says Casper. I haven't actually managed to watch any of it myself, so I'm glad you're enjoying it, buddy. Silver is indeed incredible. Her versus Charlotte will feed families. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the kind of matchups that you can get with Sol Ruka when she finally does pop on to the main roster. But let's bring it back to who is at the top of the women's division on the main roster at the moment. And again, we've talked about the match in depth, but we'll just go back to it just to talk about who we think is actually going to win it this time. Let's lock in our predictions, Lucas. We got Stephanie Becker, the women's champion, defending her title against Nikki Bella. Ultimately, do you see this as the time where it comes away from La Premiere? La Premiere, there we go. Oh, I can't hear you, Lucas. You're muted. There we go.
Is that better?
There we go. All good.
No, weird. Yeah, no, I don't think it's a time. She only won the belt, didn't she, in September? I think that, yeah, it's not time yet. I think that we're going to still see her as champion, particularly because obviously I predicted Dominic Mysterio to win the belt off John Cena. So I think, yeah, we'll still have Stephanie Becker as the champion coming out of this.
I'm going to go... Talk me into it. I'm going to say Stephanie Becker as well. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Nikki won, and I wouldn't be surprised if we won it here, but yeah, maybe keeping it with Stephanie for a little bit longer is the right way to go. Madman also says enjoying LFG. We're talking about all these WWE shows here. They've got so much content. I want to watch LFG because it's basically Tough Enough, and I have a massive soft spot for Tough Enough. Every version of it, by the way, I've enjoyed. Some have been better than others, don't get me wrong. But LFG is the new Tough Enough from what I gather, which is frustrating that they've got rid of that name. But yeah, I do want to try and catch up with it at some point. Madman thinks Stephanie has to win this one. And Casper is saying Stephanie as well. Looks like a clean sweep for Stephanie when it comes to the comments and us on the panel as well. So keep your comments coming, guys. Let us know if you differ. If you do think Nikki Bella's time is now to again use the Cena pun. Let's move on though to the men's War Games match itself. Again, it's a big one. Just to recap who we have on the involved with the match itself. Again, a babyface team of the Usos, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre, Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker, Logan Paul, and Brock Lesnar. That is a stacked match if I've ever seen one, to be honest. Lucas, thoughts on the way they've got to this WarGames match and how you think that might factor into the way it's booked?
So they've got this War Games match by teasing a lot of things, haven't they? They've teased obviously the vision has been incomplete since obviously Seth got kicked out, and they've had the Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes feud dominate the SmackDown brand because, well, that's the only thing that they've got. SmackDown's pretty much a one-match show some weeks, and they've also teased the whole like Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, like are they with Roman, are they not? And then obviously you've got the added element this time round in the first time that he is teaming with someone for 20 years almost, being Brock Lesnar. You know, his involvement in this match. So we spoke about a jokey comment. Obviously, Cass was an early comment regarding Brock Lesnar and his slip and stuff. But realistically, we have to understand that this is going to be like we could be in for a treat here with Brock Lesnar inside War Games and having multiple people that he can basically throw around. You know, it could get pretty nasty. One would have to imagine that Brock Lesnar will be the final person entering the cage, you know, or Roman is one of the two anyway. And I guess it's a nice little kind of chapter as well in that feud, that rivalry, which end of the day, like for loving it or hating it, like it is a rivalry that's done a lot of good business for them over the past, 10, 15 years. You know, you're talking about a match that's been involved, is it 3 WrestleManias? Yeah, 3 WrestleManias, SummerSlam, day
About
one
50 PLEs, yeah.
world, and obviously now getting inside the iconic steel cages. But there's a lot of elements here, and obviously I saw a comment earlier today actually from someone saying that they think that Roman might even turn. That Roman might even turn and join the Vision, or that potentially we could be seeing the bloodline kind of restarting, with Roman and the Usos and stuff. And I just hope that whatever we're doing something new and something fresh. And I think as much the vision, like we spoke about previously, like it wasn't fully clicking at times, I think at least it was something new, something different with new people. I just fear we're going to go back to, we're already kind of going back to, Roman and Brock via this match. Like, do you really want to go back to Bloodline again? And, the same story we've already told. I don't think we should be doing that. But I think that the big element in this is Jey Uso, and obviously he has kind of flirted with not being as good guy as he has been previously, and one would imagine a lot of it is that kind of fall from grace, you could argue, from obviously being the world champion and tapping out Gunther at WrestleMania to not being able to get that title back and not being able to get a win in the main event of significance for quite some time now. A notable absence in this match obviously is LA Knight. Like you'd think that with everything that they're apparently pumping into him, he'd be someone who would feature, but it does seem that obviously they've gone for the bigger star power attractions, and that's been another thing I've been frustrated about when it comes to. I saw Cass's comment earlier again about the 4 matches, and again, please watch episode 3 of my show. I spoke about this quite a lot, but specifically, so I don't think it's something I actually mentioned on my show, but specifically, I think a lot of the bigger matches of the year all go to already established main event talent. So you've already got the fact that the Chamber is, a number one contender for WrestleMania and generally features just main event wrestlers who could get that championship match anyway. Now, then you got King of the Ring
Going that way as well. Like
sorry?
Money in the Bank, I've always
Yeah.
loved it. I always say that person breaking into that next kind of category, but quite often they get, and it was, at first it freshened it up, Cena being in it, but now we get like former world champions stack up the Money in the Bank. It's like, it's too much.
Yeah, and you get to the point where you're just getting multiple people, winning multiple, winning multiple of the same match or being part of the same matches. We're going to get to a point where someone's going to be in the Money in the Bank match like 25 times, or something ridiculous like that. Because at the end of the day, they don't like to put too many newer people into these matches, and it's something they've got to start doing. Because even same with King of the Ring, like they touched on it this year when they basically said that King of the Ring used to be the one night tournament and the grueling kind of thing you had to do to win the King of the Ring, and now it's become kind of the showcase of the best. But isn't that WrestleMania? Like, isn't WrestleMania meant to be your showcase of the Immortals, where the best fight the best? Like, if you want to do Cody and Randy, or whatever, just do that WrestleMania or SummerSlam. That's that time to do it, surely, isn't it? That's a big feud. Like, you can do that at those big events. You don't need to give them King of the Ring. King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring should go to wrestlers and to stars who aren't quite there yet, and they need this to be the stepping stone in order to go to the next thing. And so, so WarGames has fallen into that too. So you've got WarGames, you've got Chamber, you've got Money in the Bank, you've got King of the Ring. They're all just things now that exist in the main event. Talent to do, and it leaves a lot of the lower card not knowing really what to do, because something I think Survivor Series matches always did very well, and obviously the traditional one, obviously, as you know from like years ago, was that every match on the card was the Survivor Series tag. I mean, as the years went on, they changed it up, but generally speaking, what they would make sure to do is they'd always have one for the lower card guys, like I've been rewatching them quite a lot lately, and you'd always just see like the Smoking Guns are in one, or Hardcore Holly's in one, or things that people like that, Scotty Hottie, Too Cool in one, like early on in the night, and so it'd always be that kind of lower card one. And I just think with WarGames, we're missing that. Like, where are those guys meant to wrestle?
Yeah, and this goes into the wider kind of conversation of WarGames and Survivor Series. And I think for me, a compromise would be even putting Survivor Series and elimination matches, traditional ones, on the undercard or something like that, But then, or for me, I'd move WarGames. I like them both. I'd move them. But let's get to some more of these comments here, and then we'll dive a little bit further into the men's match as well. Casper says, I do like AAA. Again, we were talking earlier on about all the multiple shows that WWE are bringing our way now, or kind of in charge of, at least. Madman says, I hope Brock just destroys everyone. As controversial as it is, the unpredictable shock factor reactions that people face is hilarious. Yeah, I mean, when Lucas kind of touched on it earlier, my mind went straight to that Royal Rumble when he was destroying everyone until Drew McIntyre come out. So we could get something quite similar to that. And, I think it has its place. What's Triple H doing with Theory, man? We thought you might be in the vision. At this point, I just feel sad. Me too. I really don't know what's going on there. It's a real shame. I'm a big fan of Austin Theory. Strange, very strange. Casper says, I'd say CM Punk's team is going to win, but agree with Lucas about Brock throwing people around. It could get quite nasty. I've got a few hearts in here as well. That's always nice to see. Good to see you. The appreciation from our viewers. Casper also says, Brock Lesnar throwing people around. I'm looking forward to it. And Madman agrees. Says, yeah, seeing Brock wreak havoc. Are you saying havoc? It's always fun. Either way, throwing people around, I get where you're coming from there. Right, let's dive into again the match a little bit further here. We got some interesting dynamics between the two. You mentioned the Jey Uso factor. They've kind of taken their foot off the gas a little bit there with that, but it could happen in this match. You've got Logan Paul, which again I really thought he was joining the division itself, and I'm kind of disappointed to see it might not be the case. I mean, that could be the division on the right hand side, except for Drew McIntyre. He's the one that doesn't make sense for me in that graphic or become part of the division. But then Drew, can become a hypocrite, with his character, so he could easily kind of join forces longer term, but it doesn't look like that's the case. As far as winner goes, Lucas, I mean, I've gone with the baby faces with the women. I'm not sure if that will be the case twice, and I think maybe the Vision, even if that isn't all the Vision, but the Vision, whoever the Vision is within this bad guy team, probably need to look strong here. So I think I am going to go with the bad guys winning this one, but it's that age-old thing of, do you send the fans home happy, or do you send them home with the bad guys on top? And I do feel like this will close the show. So that's the only thing that's kind of holding me back on this one here. But what are your thoughts here? Do you reckon it'll be the bad guys, or do you feel like CM Punk and Co might pick up the victory and send everyone home happy?
See, I think with Brock on the team, I just don't see that team losing. I think he makes the match, just because how are you going to get Brock Lesnar out of this cage, like away from a pinfall, or are you going to pin Brock Lesnar as part of this? That's the thing. I think that's why I think this thing about obviously Roman maybe doing the turn, might come into it. But yeah, I just think, yeah, I'd be very surprised the Bayface team did win. I don't think they're too concerned about sending the fans home happy, in terms of like that way anymore. And obviously, I think they're going to use. Hopefully, they should use this as a stepping stone for obviously stuff to come afterwards, and lots of stories coming out of this. So I think that the villain team would get the win.
What are the biggest stories coming at us for you? Is it like me kind of thinking it's about pushing the vision again, or do you see? I mean, do you see the Roman Reigns thing happening?
No, I don't. And I hope not either. I think that obviously Logan Paul is most likely next in line to get the title match, because obviously Punk hasn't actually had his first. There's nothing that WarGames does as well. It creates a situation with the champion, and the Rumble does.
Right.
Champions didn't really have a feud because they're obviously doing war games, and then they're going to do the Rumble stuff where obviously they're looking to basically promote a match against one of 30 people. um 4 months time, by the way, not for like now, like it's not imminent. And so yeah, I do think Punk needs to have that first thing, and Logan Paul's proven that he's good in this spot because he's believed. Because the thing is, one day it's going to happen. This is the thing. One day Logan Paul is going to win the world championship, and it's just a case of when. But every time they do it, he's believable enough to be like, this could be it. But they could do it. Of course, they're going to call the thing now because maybe it's in his hometown, or it's like the first time they're doing something, or whatever. But he's believable enough. But obviously, because he was the first title match, I think, for Jay earlier this year. Feud with him, he's been the first. He's obviously faced Roman Reigns previously. So and he faced Cody as well. Sorry, when he was back when it was United, he was US champion, obviously. So, and I think each time it's been believable that like he could win. Like, people go, because it's that whole thing where his fan base eclipses kind of a lot of people's fan bases in wrestling because he's known outside of wrestling. And one day they are going to do it. Like, they're going to do it. And I'll go out on a limb here and say he's probably going to win a world championship before Drew McIntyre does. Yeah, because I think he's going to win a world title in the next 12 months. I mean, deadly honest. I think that is coming. And I know it upsets a certain demographic of the fan base. Even Logan Paul exists like wrestling in the company, but it's proven butts on seats. It's proven money in the bank. It's proven sponsorship deals. It's proven like a lot of stuff, and that's what TK are about now. That cash cow. So I think, yeah, we're going to get the setup obviously from CM Punk into Logan Paul. We'll probably get to know what Roman's doing next. I mean, if he gets stretched out, I think it's safe to say he's not back till Mania. If he is still kind of like standing as part of the end of the match, it looks like we may get a signal as to what he's going to be facing next. Like, is he going to go to face Bron Breaker? Is he going to maybe look to feud with Drew again? Or are we going to go back to the match that always makes money for them, being Roman and Brock? Like, is that what comes out of this? So I think we're going to get a couple of things like that. But I think the big talking point is going to be Brock Lesnar in this cage, and Brock Lesnar going on a warpath, and I think Brock Lesnar getting the win.
Yeah, Madman says I mixed up my words there. No worries. You had me worried there. I was confused. Casper says I'm hope for a full-time Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul as a full-time Vision members. I think Drew McIntyre needs it, in my opinion. Drew, yeah, I mean, it's strange because you made a big claim there, Lucas, but it's definitely possible that Drew doesn't win. It looked like they were going to with Drew, but they're not.
Something they could do, and they haven't done this, I don't think. I know the brand split is kind of not really a thing anymore, but you could have Logan and Drew on SmackDown as division, and then Bron and the Brons on Raw as division, and Heyman just bounce between the both. Because that way you get two top villains on SmackDown, which bloody hell, that show needs it. And then you keep the Vision on Raw ready for whenever Seth returns, and Seth could return to either brand that way. And you could build things up. Because I've said it for ages, Logan Paul should wrestle more. He should be part of the product much more, in my opinion. Again, I know this is controversial, but I think that if there is a story arc here where he could become part of the Vision, I think it's something worth sticking around for. He's definitely an interesting one to have. I mean, even when thinking about when Seth comes back, obviously there's feuds there ready for him against the Brons, but like if there's other people he has to go through first, the whole babyface having to fight his way to the leader always works in wrestling. We love it as fans. We love it. So if he has to fight through Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, and just to get a shot at the Brons, I think that's good storytelling for you.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a possibility that they do become members. There's also a possibility that it really is all thrown together for WarGames and they forget they even knew each other just a few days away from this. But we'll have to see. So it looks like we have all of our predictions booked in now, Lucas. We've both gone for the heels in the men's WarGames match. But let's just recap here again what our predictions were. On the men's WarGames match, as I say, team heel, so that would be Drew McIntyre, the Vision. Well, who knows who's in the Vision, but let's just say Drew McIntyre, the Brons, Logan Paul, and Brock Lesnar defeating the good guys. We also, of course, predicted the women's WarGames match, where this time around we went for the babyface team of Rhea, Charlotte, Alexa, AJ Lee, of course, returning here as well, and Io Sky. Again, talk about this match here. There's a lot of stacked talent in this one as well. Talking about stacked talent, look, one of the biggest names in WWE history is going up against arguably one of the kind of brightest stars of the future here, Dominic Mysterio versus John Cena in one of Cena's final ever matches, well, second to last ever match. So this is an exciting event in itself. And then we've got another example of a current shining star and a legend, if you will, from the women's side of things as well. Nikki Bella looking to get a title around her waist once more by taking it off of her former friend after turning on Stephanie Becker just a little while ago. Myself and Lucas agreed on this one that we think it probably will be Stephanie, but again, Nikki winning is not out of the kind of equation either. And going back to Cena and Dominic Mysterio, we both went with Dominic getting the title back. But once again, I would not be surprised if Cena went into his final match as champion and the story was, can he retire with the belt or not? But look, that's where we're at with Survivor Series. I really thank you all for tuning in tonight, guys. We appreciate your comments. Whether you're watching live or on demand, we hope you've enjoyed the show and it's got you in the mood for the big event this weekend. Of course, Survivor Series WarGames 2025. Casper says, I'm not hating on Logan Paul as part of the Vision. I do love Logan Paul, but yeah, just not too sure about him being in the Vision, says Casper as well. As I mentioned earlier on, loads more content for you to sink your teeth into on this channel. We've interviewed the likes of Finn Balor to Damian Priest to who else have we spoke to? Imperium, as we mentioned earlier on. So if you haven't already, go and check out our content on this very channel. We also mentioned Lucas's new show, the Lucas Jackson Show, on his own channel as well. So if you haven't already, go and subscribe to Lucas's brand new show on the Lucas Jackson channel as well. But yeah, that's it, guys. We are pretty much wrapping up now as we get towards Survivor Series in this in this weekend. Again, we will not be doing a build-up shows like we usually do. Sadly, I'm not able to do it this time around, but I hope you've enjoyed this show nonetheless. We'll be back as soon as we can to talk all things pro wrestling. Again, we've got a big show coming up in a few weeks' time with John Cena's final ever match and a whole show that's been based around that, essentially. Lucas, anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's all, guys. Thanks for joining us, of course. Well, thanks for your comments. We always appreciate it. And yeah, we would detect it very, very soon. Yeah, thank you, Casper. You have one for evening as well. And he's off to watch I'm a Celebrity. I will be very shortly too, actually. Yeah.
I'm not off to go watch I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. But hey, that's a good cue for us to get out of here anyway. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, please do so. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Enjoy Survivor Series.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.